Propaganda in the European Union is reaching a whole new level. Luckily, this time the level is so bad, is so abysmal, that it is plain obvious that we are talking about, and I kid you not, North Korean style kind of propaganda. What I'm talking about is two connected pieces, both of them from Euronews. One is the article published on the official Euronews webpage about the re-election bid of Ursula von der Leyen. The title itself is already revealing. In seeking re-election, Ursula von der Leyen has one rival, herself. And I kid you not, the entire article is about how Ursula von der Leyen is so wonderful, so good, has been such a phenomenal leader that the only one who's even close to rivaling her is herself in the past. That's the only thing that could be a slight threat for her next 5 years in power. Quite fantastic stuff. Now, the second part of this is the YouTube video that goes with it here on the official YouTube channel of Euronews. And this is so clearly a propaganda outlet that even YouTube has to warn its viewership that Euronews is funded in whole or in part by the European Union. And this outlet here, funded by the European Union, now sings the high praises of its great leader, Ursula von der Leyen, right? And the good part of this, though, is that it is now so transparent that I don't think a lot of people fall for it. So Euronews, for one reason or another, has 2.32 million subscribers, which is large. This is a large YouTube channel, right? Yet this video that came out 5 days ago on the 20th of February by now has barely 2,000 views and only 24 likes, which is really, really poor. And it gets better though, because the comment section is wonderful. The most liked comment here is, "No way could the EU stand another term of von der Leyen. It would be finished. Arrogancy beyond good calculation." Number 3, "Vote for Viktor Orban." And the fourth one, my favorite, "Not again." Well, the article itself contains most of the argument, but I will add the video, the YouTube video, to this video, so you can enjoy it, watching it here, of all the levels of praise that are being sung. I mean, it's just heaps and heaps of praise for Ursula von der Leyen and her awesome achievements of the last 5 years. And we have the same here, just a little bit more nuanced, a little bit more pronounced. So let's go and read through it. Ursula von der Leyen is often hailed as the most transformational president of the European Commission, really, since Jacques Delors. But could her legacy backfire as she seeks re-election? Could she just be too good for the job? She's just so amazing. She's so amazing. She might be too good for it. The German politician is ready for another 5 years at the helm of the European Union's most powerful institution, the article informs us. Okay, fine. And then we get a little bit of what she's been doing, also during the pandemic, relief fund, and so on. Then, when Vladimir Putin gave the go-ahead to invade Ukraine, von der Leyen proposed plans to wean the EU of Russian fossil fuels, which has worked so wonderfully, because now the EU buys those Russian fossil fuels via the Indians and gets a lot more of the fracking shale gas from the United States. So that has been working like a charm, I suppose. The president then turned the war into the long missing catalyst that was needed to revive the project of enlargement, and recommended the opening of accession talks with Ukraine, Moldova, and Bosnia-Herzegovina, provided the completion of reforms. The long-needed catalyst. I mean, you've got Turkey waiting at your doorsteps for I think the last nearly 50 years, and the EU wouldn't let them in or take the discussion further. But the fact that now finally they can open up to Eastern Europe and add new members, that's the big achievement, especially Ukraine, that model democracy in the EU with slight reforms, tiny reforms needed. When she saw China double down on its assertiveness, this is also so interesting, since China never does anything that actually is in breach of international law, except for the claims it has in the South China Sea. There is a lot of debate there. South China Sea and East China Sea issues, don't get me wrong, a lot of debates there. But there's a lack of Chinese breaches of international law when it comes to the European Union, right? Just China doesn't do anything to the European Union that's in breach of international law, or actually against trade agreements. So the usual narrative then is that China is being assertive. The assertiveness of China, and this word keeps coming up again and again and again and again as a way of demonizing the Chinese, of course. So when she saw China is doubling down on its assertiveness and stand by Putin's side, von der Leyen came up with the concept of de-risking and drafted the first ever strategy on economic security, forcing open markets to reckon head on with geopolitical swings. So, kind of de-risking as you close your markets to certain goods from China, as demanded by the United States, right, in order to comply with their various Chips Act. With their various acts and so on, to not let to just not share European markets with the Chinese. And again, this China stands by the side of Putin by simply not putting sanctions on Russia. That's standing with Putin, while the European Union and the Americans have been sending tons of weapons to Ukraine. But if China refuses, China didn't send weapons to Russia. It didn't. But the fact that it refuses to follow the sanctions that the European Union and the Americans put on Russia, that means standing by Ukraine, standing by Russia is also quite telling. And again, we have the same two boogeymen, right? We have the same two targets that are chosen by the collective West. It's Russia and China. All of this elevated von der Leyen's profile, both domestically and internationally, the highest previously unknown to her predecessors. The heights previously unknown to her predecessors, because she has been the best. I mean, she's just the pinnacle of leaders of the European Union. She earned glowing coverage in, among others, the New York Times, the Guardian, the magazine, and Forbes, which named her the world's most powerful woman for 2 years in a row. And here you see how it works. If other propaganda outlets praise a leader, then that's proof that the leader must be good, because the propaganda outlets wouldn't praise the leader if the leader wasn't good. It's phenomenal, the circular logic at this point. Inside the commission, however, her penchant for ambitious policies ruffled feathers among staff. Ruffled feathers, she's not afraid of taking on the machine, right? She ruffles the feathers. And a little bit about some superficial kind of disagreements within the EU. Still, the Commission President managed to pull through and shake off her harshest critiques, because she was right, they were wrong, because she's great, she's the best. By the time she announced her campaign, no other name thrown in the ring had the gravitas to compete with her. Therefore, we are going to have a commissioner election without any other rivals, and that is the best form of democracy. I mean, this is even sadder, even more sad than the election that's going to be held in Russia, where we already know who's going to win. We know it's going to be Vladimir Putin, but here we won't even have somebody else. There will be nobody else will stand for election. I mean, it's I don't know. Maybe there will be somebody. Maybe somebody will rival her, but I don't know. I mean, at this point, it looks as if though she will be alone, and that will, of course, stand as a fantastic achievement. And here it is being hailed as an achievement of democracy. The old question of Henry Kissinger, of who do you phone when you want to phone Europe, I think at this point in time it has an answer. Again, the Europeans and the EU definitely misunderstanding themselves as the embodiment of Europe, excluding, of course, Russia, excluding Turkey, excluding all other parts that would have a claim to also be counted as Europe or inside Europe. Oh my God! And then the iconography. I mean, look at that. You call this a hagiography, right? A a narrative, a narration about a saint. It's just like, this is, look at this picture of Ursula von der Leyen climbing steps up to the highest heights and looking ahead, forward into the future, a woman of vision. This really actually reminds me of Stalinism, of the way that the Soviet leaders were depicted. With no political rival standing between her and the Commission, von der Leyen inevitably becomes her sole adversary. Her legacy, built at frantic pace in times of extreme urgency, will simultaneously serve as an argument in favor and against her re-election. So I do hope that somebody will challenge her. I mean, you know me, I would love Claire Daly or Mick Wallace as Commission presidents, but that of course will never happen. You would never ever have any kind of anti-establishment figure at the helm of the European Union. But I do hope that at least for good show that there will be a variety of people who stand for election, and it's of course going to be the European Parliament then electing the leader, and it's not going to be a popular vote. It's going to be a parliamentary vote. A lot of people criticize that as anti-democratic. I don't. I don't think this is inherently wrong, because at the end of the day, the parliamentarians in the EU Parliament are themselves publicly elected, and in the Swiss system, for instance, we do the same. And I don't think this is inherently wrong, but it's really far removed from the experiences of people. I mean, also because who gets to choose who gets to run for Commission president? Actually, I don't know. I don't know how this process is being done, but it seems to me that there's still a lot of democratic deficiency in this entire process. Last sentence I want to present to you before going into the video. The director of nature at the European Environmental Bureau believes the Green Deal must return to its early days, because this is the current challenge, right? Because you have these huge farmers' protests that just don't want to go along with the deindustrialization and defarming of the European Union. When it was an ambitious transformative agenda with high level of commitments before being weakened by the upcoming European election and the instrumentalization of the consequences of the war in Ukraine by some actors, in particular from the agribusiness. So this is somebody who says that the farming protests and so on, those people, they belong to agribusiness, and they're currently weakening the Green New Deal, and that von der Leyen, this is one of the few criticisms, has been giving in to too many of the demands that are coming from the farmers. Because if anything at all, then Ursula should double down, and the farmers should be forced to shut up and just take it, because that is democracy. That is the European Union for you. If people protest against you, it's a sign that they are right-wing nationalist extremists, and not that there is serious grievances among the population. Those parts are a little bit further up here in the article. But now, please also do enjoy the propaganda piece on YouTube. It's coming right up next. And again, this is a new level, but a sad level, but luckily a transparent one.
Ursula von der Leyen was approved by the European Parliament on the 16th of July 2019 to be President of the European Commission. Soon, she became one of the most influential leaders in Europe, but her mandate was heavily marked by different crises and lately overshadowed by criticism related to Europe's green transition. In March 2020, Europe faced lockdowns and panic due to the coronavirus. The Commission eventually opted for a joint vaccines procurement and set up a monetary fund to boost the economy. Both initiatives were welcomed across Europe.
The recovery fund, well, the base is that we take loans together and we stand in solidarity with each other. That was also progress. Unfortunately, the dissemination of the money was not enough bound to the Green Deal measurements and also the controlling mechanisms on how effectively this money is spent.
Shortly after Vladimir Putin launched his war in Ukraine in 2022, von der Leyen travelled to Kyiv and Bucha to show Europe's support.
Here in Bucha, we saw our humanity being shattered.
In the following months, the EU sanctioned Russia, cut energy ties with it, granted financial aid and weapons to Kyiv, and eventually opened the way towards EU membership of Ukraine.
They belong to us, they are one of us, and we want them in.
These were all firsts under the leadership of von der Leyen.
She is combining really a very good combination of personal, emotional and psychological, appeal both to Ukrainians and to Europeans, and also very clear practical vision of what is needed to be done for Ukraine. All the statements about solidarity, about our support to Ukraine need to be, supported by clear, steps, clear measures, and that is what Ursula von der Leyen really she's able to achieve.
Critics say while von der Leyen was clearly committed to the Green Deal in the first years of her mandate, her enthusiasm has faded away due to lobbying from big businesses. While her party, the EPP, tried to hijack the nature restoration law, the Commission watered down the car emissions phase-out and made various concessions to protesting farmers.
She has been giving in to this pressure substantially, which was quite disappointing, not just for me as a member of the parliament, but for big parts of society.
If von der Leyen is elected again, she is likely to concentrate on EU defence policy, as well as reforming the bloc to be able to accept new members.